right, everybody. Today we have my good friend Stevie Blunder here. Stevie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, it's me Stevie, professional Yu-Gi-Oh shit poster, and sometimes I stream, and sometimes I'm tied to a desk, forced to edit Mythos videos. So that's fun.
Right. That's right.
Just kidding. I don't edit videos. I have my own child army. They're working hard in the coal mines.
Stevie is here to show me some Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I have to rate them on some sort of scale. I have no idea. I don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh. I am mainly a Pokemon TCG gal. I like to dip my my little toes in Vanguard as well, but I pretty much know nothing about Yu-Gi-Oh. So this is gonna be very interesting to say the least.
All I'm gonna say is just like, close your eyes, put the blinders on, and just pray to God that the Yu-Gi-Oh cards are an entirely different breed. So the cards I'm going to send you, a lot of these are old, a lot of these are new, and I'll give you like a general time frame of when these cards came out, and just try and rate it within mainly the context of when it was released. Gold Sarcophagus. This card came out early 2000s, I want to say.
So it says here, banish one card from your deck face up. During your second standby phase, after this card's activation, add that card to your hand. So I'm assuming this has to do with having a card out on, like, banishing goes to the graveyard, right?
Imagine in Pokemon terms. Okay, so spell cards are basically just items. Just think of it like that. Banishing it's in the Lost Zone.
Oh,
so
okay.
You essentially Ultra Ball for a card, put it in the Lost Zone, and after 2 turns, you get it back.
I see. Okay, so this, I'm assuming this has an interaction with another card that wants the card in the Lost Zone-ish area, right?
There are cards that synergize with being banished, yes.
Okay. I would say if there are cards that synergize with things being put face up, it's very specific with how it wants to work. So I would like to think maybe this is a pretty mid card.
All right, so far, you're batting 0 for 1, unfortunately.
Okay.
When this card came out, originally it was actually a prize card. This is a card that you only got for like winning Shonen Jump championships.
Oh, I see.
And then even after it got released to the public, like back then, games were slow enough that you could just kind of banish a card that you need for like some sort of combo, or you could just banish like some super duper broken blowout card. Games went on long enough that you could just like afford to sit and wait and kind of just like chill out before you got it back. And like when you got it back, it was just like, oh, you just tutored for anything and you just stayed alive for like 2 turns. It's nutters. And even in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, like you said, like you mentioned, there was basically just a critical amount of cards like Thunder Dragons that synergize with being banished, that this card just kind of ended up being like a way to enable those banish effects. So this card ended up being limited. You can only play 1 copy in a deck now.
Oh, so back then it was like pretty DD mega fucking doo-doo, and nowadays
Oh no, back then it was just a tutor. It was just like a very good tutor. Next we got Chicken Game.
Oh my god, there's 3 different bullet points here.
So the little plus in the top right means that this is a field spell. It's basically just a stadium card, if you want to think of it like that.
Okay, so this stays in play. So is this on your field, or is this on your opponent's, or is it like on kind of both?
Some affect both players, but for all intents and this is one of them. But most field spells usually only affect the controller. This one is one that affects both players.
Player with the lowest LP takes no damage once per turn during the main phase. The turn player can pay 100 LP, which is life points, I'm assuming. Then activate one of these effects. Draw 1 card, destroy this card. Your opponent gains 1,000 life points. Neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. You can't negate this, right? Is that what the last sentence is implying?
You can't negate the effect of this card. You can't negate the effect to destroy it, or draw a card, or to gain 1,000 life points, whatever.
I would want to think this card's kind of cracked, because from my understanding of the game, and you can 100% correct me if I'm wrong, even drawing cards is super powerful. So even if you have to sacrifice like a little bit of your own health to be able to draw cards that can like pull the game into your favor, I'm assuming this card is pretty cracked. I mean, you also have another choice to destroy and give your opponent LP, which I'm assuming can synergize with other things, right?
Yeah. You are like, you're shooting 1 for 2. You did it, LeBron.
Oh my god, the Lakers. I'm ready. I'm ready to play my first game.
So when this card was released, there was just a massive critical number of like spell cards that just said like draw a card, draw 2 cards, or like whatever, and you would kind of just chain a bunch of those together. It would fuel up this card called Magical Explosion, where you would basically just cycle through your entire deck of like spell cards and like draw enablers and blah 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 blah. That this deck for like 1 week was like one of the best in the meta as just like an FTK deck, and Chicken Game was definitely one of those enablers.
Is this card banned or like limited?
Chicken Game was banned for like 10-15 years.
That's crazy.
Vanity's Fiend.
Cannot. It's a field or fiend effect. What is this?
This is a monster.
Oh, it's a monster. Okay, I see. Cannot be special summoned. Neither player can special summon monsters. Oh, that's like denying your opponent from doing what they want to do, huh?
In like the Pokemon TCG equivalent, it's basically just like your opponent can't put Pokemon from like their deck onto the bench or into active play or anything like that.
Oh, I see. You're locking them from even putting anything down on the field that is monsters, right? They can still play spell and traps, right?
Yeah, but outside of like their 1 summon per turn from like the hand, they can't special, they can't go into their extra deck, they can't do it from the deck, etc.
I'm trying to think what like the Pokemon equivalent, at least right now in the meta, would be. I don't think there's anything that denies you from putting Pokemon down or like evolving. I think the closest thing I can think of is denying your opponent from playing item cards, which is actually super important in Pokemon because a lot of decks function off of item cards. Like you'll see decks that play over 30 item cards in the list, which is over half. See, I don't know the meta if like, because I know there's different type of summonings, but I'm assuming this was a pretty cracked card during a time that special summoning was meta.
I'll give you a hint right now. Special summoning, the second it was introduced, has been the core centerpiece of Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever since.
Okay, yeah, this card's broken then.
Okay, this card's not actually that good.
Oh, is it not?
This card can't be special summoned, which means that you basically have to open it in your hand or use like a searcher on it, but this card kind of has like a lot of attributes that kind of just naturally make it difficult to search or difficult to find. It's basically just like that one card you play that's like an unsearchable card where if you draw it, you're the greatest player of all time, and if you don't, you're just like sad.
Oh, I see.
Next card.
Skill Drain. What is this art? What is happening to this dude? It is a trap card. Activate by paying 1,000 life points. Negate the effects of all face-up monsters while they are face-up on the field, but their effects can still be activated. Negate effects of all face-up. That's including yourself. Do you want to be negating your own stuff? Because like
usually no.
Usually no, but negating your opponent's cards face-up monsters is also really good. I would say this card's mid. Like, you can find yourself in some situations to use it, but I don't think it would be a card that you would constantly be using.
Okay, so this card is one of the best floodgates of all time. There are a lot of really good effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! That are kind of attached to relatively weak monsters that need to be on the board to activate. So if you just like flip this and you don't really care about your own effects, just like fuck it, your opponent like can't play anymore.
Waking the Dragon trap card. If this set card in its owner's control has left the field because of an opponent's effect and is now in the graveyard or banished, you can special summon 1 monster from your deck or extra deck. I need to read this again. I am very confused. The set card in its owner's control has left the field because of an opponent's effect, and it is now in the graveyard or banished. Oh, I see. So if somebody gets rid of this card, you can special summon, right?
Yeah. So the idea is like it's a trap card, so you set it, and if your opponent uses an effect like Lightning Storm, like we previously mentioned, to destroy like your spells and traps, if this card ends up being destroyed, then you could summon any monster from your deck or extra deck.
Like even during your opponent's turn, if they.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So using the context that I know, with you saying that special summoning has been a core part of the game since it released, I'm assuming this card is actually pretty good. Because you kind of want to place it down to kind of bait your opponent, right, into trying to get rid of it, only for them to get rid of it, and then you summon stuff on their turn.
When this card came out, a lot of people kind of thought the same way. They were like, OMG, you can just play this in like a stun strategy or like a back row strategy and just like set this alongside a bunch of your cards. And if your opponent like, you know, use something like Lightning Storm, you just be like, haha, I'm going to Waking the Dragon. And you're just going to summon out like some super cheesy, unstoppable monster from your extra deck. The problem ended up kind of being your opponent could just not remove this card.
Okay.
You have no way of triggering this card on your own.
Okay, the Monarch's Stormfront. I like the art on this one. All right.
He's storming forth.
He is. Once during this turn, if you would tribute a monster, or with S, plural, you control for a tribute summon, you can tribute one monster your opponent controls as if you controlled it. You can only activate one Monarch Stormfront per turn. During the turn you activate this card, you cannot special summon from the extra deck.
The theory is you use it, and you could sacrifice your opponent's monsters to use as material, so you don't need your own.
At the cost of you not being able to special summon. So would the strategy be you want to special summon first before playing this down? Or is that not how the phases work? I'm kind of still like confused about how Yu-Gi-Oh phases work because there's just so many.
There's like the draw phase, the standby phase, the main phase, then a combat phase, and then a second main phase, and then the end phase.
Okay.
You can't special summon the turn you even use the Monarch Stormfront. You can't summon from the extra deck the turn you use it.
I see. Okay, so they would have to go with a different type of strategy, right? That isn't special summoning if they are to use this type of card. So, tributing monsters, it's sacrificing for other cards to be played, correct? Okay.
The easy answer is think of it as like evolving, but instead of using your own Pokemon, you use your opponent's Pokemon.
That's crazy. I would like to think this is kind of bonkers because you're also you're using your opponent's like stuff, right? If you tribute, does it go to like graveyard or like banish? Where does it go?
Everything goes to the graveyard, unless otherwise.
So getting rid of like your opponent's stuff to be able to put yourself in a better position, I would think is really good. But again, I don't know like the meta, if maybe there's like just a better type of strategy. So I'm gonna kind of go with this card's pretty good.
This card is pretty fucking bonkers.
Let's go!
There's an entire archetype of monsters called the Monarchs. They were a bunch of really powerful tribute monsters that had like really good effects. But the problem is, you know, they're tribute monsters. Like, you're not always going to have the material up. And then they printed this card. And Monarchs became, like, overnight, one of the best decks ever.
Oh, is it still good now? Or is it, like, just...
No, unfortunately, like, the Monarch... Just like the Monarch cards aren't very good anymore. Like, just basically imagine you could just summon Charizard from your hand immediately by just like getting rid of your opponent's active Pokemon. Like, okay, I guess I'll go fuck myself.
Oh, all right. Book of Eclipse. Spell card has a different symbol on it. So this is not a field spell. I know that you said
this is a quick play. This is a quick play spell.
Oh,
Think of it as like if you activate an effect, you can respond to it with another effect.
Change all face-up monsters on the field to face-down defense position. During the end phase of this turn, change as many defense or position monsters your opponent controls as possible to face-up defense division. What? Defense position. Then your opponent draws cards equal to the amount of monsters changed face-up by this effect. So what's the difference between face down and face up defense position? Because I thought it was just defense position. I didn't know there were two different ones.
So monsters can be summoned in defense position, but they have to be face down first.
Okay.
So if you want to like summon it from your hand, you have to set it first. There's no like summoning it face up in defense position. That just doesn't exist. It was a lie fed to you by Konami.
Okay.
In the anime. Monsters that are face down, their effects are not applied. And for the most part, they're just kind of stuck there.
Okay, so basically when it's face down, it's kind of like a dead card. You can't really do anything with it. Changing all the face-up monsters, so that includes yours. But during the end phase, you can change your opponent's to come back face up. Oh, your opponent draws. Okay. But you choose what goes back up, right? Or do they choose?
No, everything.
Ugh, this one's dicey then. Dookie, right? Because you don't want your opponent drawing cards.
When this card was released, everybody was like, why wouldn't I just play like a similar effect that doesn't let my opponent draw cards? This card is kind of poo-poo. My opponent can still do certain actions while they have the cards. What if I can't kill my opponent or move the monsters fast enough? It was like okay, but it was never like amazing. Around 2022, there was this deck called Kashtira, and that deck ended on a lot of monsters. Didn't really have a way to deal with being put face down, so you would just activate this card and then your opponent's entire board would just be effectively just negated. And you would just be like, oh, you have no monsters to interrupt me. And you would just do your entire combo play on their turn.
And they can't do anything about it.
Although it started off a bit shaky, like the more time has gone on, people rediscovered this card as like being a genuinely fuck-ass broken card.
Well, clearly I need to do my Yu-Gi-Oh homework. Seeing what cards do in Yu-Gi-Oh and how like stinky nasty it is, it makes me very grateful to Pokemon because they don't have very many cards that do this. So if anything, Stevie, this experience made me appreciate Pokemon even more because we don't have shit like this.